Hi everyone, Amber here from Majestic. Thank you so much for joining me again today for another Marathon Sewciety sew along. Today we are sewing up the cutest pattern from KiteCo Creates. So thank you so much, Jill, for allowing us to sew up your pattern. We are sewing up the Sanders sling. And you might be like, well, that's not a sling. There's also a crossbody version and there's two sizes. So this is the small crossbody. I opted to do the front with a flap. This is what the back looks like. And then inside I have done two pockets. So it's super cute. There's also a really unique way of doing the zipper. I've never done a zipper like this before, so I was really excited to learn this new technique. So thanks again, Jill, for allowing us to sew it up. I'm going to have all her information in the comments. She has her own YouTube channel, Facebook group, all sorts of social media. So please make sure to check her out and let me know if you like the video. Okay, so I have all my pieces laid out. I decided to do the small crossbody. So I have vinyl for my exterior, and instead of Decoville I did use Sewfuse Plus. I'm afraid that Decoville will be too stiff with the rest of my materials. So I also have the tops also with Sewfuse, and I am adding the flap, so I put Sewfuse on that as well. I have two pieces of exterior for the pocket trims. This long piece, all this printed one is the passport stamps in water resistant canvas, which has the PU layer on it, not the PVC. So this is my main print. I have the D-ring, I have the credit card slot, the pocket in the interior. This is the exterior pocket. For the lining, I am using a waterproof canvas. This is the PVC backed waterproof canvas. This is the Pro Tough from Walmart. And I also have the lining for the flap. Since I'm doing the crossbody, I have cut out my strap. I'm going to make it out of the main print, and I am going to do it 60 inches long. I decided I'm going to add a little tag inside. I have my size 5 zipper tape and this globe zipper pull. These are also both available in my shop. I have my 2 D-ring, slider, and snap hooks. I have some rivets to add, and I do not have a magnetic snap, sorry about that. I am going to use one of these fashion snaps for the exterior flap. Alright, these are the tools that I will be using today. I have a supply of clips, a small ruler, a hand punch. I will be sewing with 9014 Microtex needles. And I am using Tex 35 thread from Wizardry Stitchery. I'm using the fairy floss. I also have snips, some pinking shears, a chalk marker, a stiletto seam ripper combo, and some double-sided tape. Hi everyone, future self popping in for a minute. I totally did not pay attention to the pattern, and it is not a fault of the pattern. I literally was just looking at the pictures. So I forgot to put my snap in before this section. I ended up sewing this whole piece on first and then realizing I needed the snap, which I solved it by using a can snap and leaving the flat side where you can see. So if you plan on doing the magnetic snap or even a fashion snap, make sure you add it on right now before you continue with what I'm going to tell you. Don't make the same mistake as me. Okay, so I'm going to start with the front pocket piece. That is piece C. So this is going to be my exterior, and I have my lining. And we are going to put them right sides facing each other, right sides together. And I'm going to clip. And we are going to take it to the machine and we are going to sew. We're going to leave an opening on the bottom here because we're going to turn it through. So we're going to start, sew a little bit across, go all the way up around the edges in the curve, come back down the other side and stop at the bottom here, making sure that we backstitch at the beginning and the end. Okay, for most of the bag, I'll be doing the sewing in a time lapse. But I just wanted to say I'm using my regular presser foot right now because the water resistant canvas is has the PU coating. It's not the sticky PVC. The bottom one is the PVC. So if there's any time that I'm sewing with the PVC, I'm going to switch this out to a Teflon foot. But for right now, I'm just using my regular normal stitch length and my regular presser foot. You can see it takes some time and you can see my top is not poked out. So I just take a chopstick literally from like takeout and I use that to gently poke out my corners. But I have it poked out as best as I can. So if you are using something that you can iron, I would iron this to flatten it out. And then now we are going to take it to our machine and we're going to top stitch along this top curve only. And I'm going to do that on my machine using a 4 for the stitch length. Okay, so now we have our completed pocket with the top stitch and one of our exterior pieces. So I am just going to fold this and mark the center. And then I'm going to fold this, even though it's a little curved, I'm still going to mark the center. I'm going to line it up and then slide it down. And we are aligning our top edges. So I'm going to put clips here to hold it. I'm going to take my time and make sure it's really centered and ready to go. And then I'm going to take it to the machine. I'm going to stitch down one side, across the bottom. You want to make sure that you have folded up that opening so you have a nice straight bottom edge, and when you stitch across, that's going to close it up. And then you're going to come up the other side, stopping at the top, and I'm going to back stitch at the beginning and the end for each of these using my regular stitch length. Okay, so I have just attached this to the front piece and I think it looks great, but I realized that I forgot to do the option with the snap, with the flap. So don't make the same mistake as me. There's 2 sets of directions. So if you are doing the one with the flap, you want to scroll down. But I can still save this because I am using a fashion snap. If you're using a magnetic one, you're going to want it between this, the lining. Okay, so I'm going to show you how I am going to save this and not have to cut everything out or unpick this. Instead of doing the fashion snap, which is metal and the back has like this rivet piece, I was like, oh, I could just like punch it through here. But you're going to see what is here. So I'm going to use these plastic cam snaps because at least the backing of this one will be flat on this back side here. So I'm going to use those instead. But I'm going to put this to the side for a minute because I am going to do my flap first. So I have already marked where my snap should be. And I'm hole punching it. Okay, now that I have hole punched it, I am going to take the lining and I'm putting it right sides together. And I am going to clip it. And now I'm going to take this to the machine and I am going to sew along the sides and along the bottom curve. I'm going to leave this top part open because we have to turn it through there, and I am going to sew using my regular stitch length at the seam allowance given in the pattern. Okay, so I have just sewed all the way around, so I am going to take my pinking shears and trim it, cut at an angle at the end or at the corner to help turn it. And then turn this inside out. And this is much easier to turn than the pocket. Okay. And you can see that it nicely turned. And if you are using quilting cotton, you can give it a nice press here. And you can see where I have punched the hole already. So I am going to use that to punch the hole again. This way it's now through my lining. Okay, so now for the plastic cam snaps, if you have a quilt cotton, you want to put some fray check. Since I'm using waterproof canvas and vinyl, I'm not going to do that. The other thing I'm going to do is just to give it some extra padding inside, I'm going to hole punch another scrap piece of the waterproof canvas. So I'm going to put one of my flat circles through the top. I'm going to take this inside, put it between, so it's like between the layers, you can see, and then stick the rest of it through the back here. And then I'm going to take my plastic piece and I am going to use my handheld ones. The flat bottom goes on the black part, and this squishy part up top is going to crush that point in the middle. So I always line it up and then gently squeeze, and I always use 2 hands and as much strength as possible. So you can see it has squished down our center point, and now our flap has the snap cap on top of it. And I'm going to grab the other piece where I had messed up. So this is going to be, if we fold this in half and line it up in the centers, we're going to clip it here afterward. So I need to figure out exactly where this snap has to go. And because I messed up my directions, I am going to have to play around and line this up. Okay, and I have it lined up right there. And I'm going to grab a actual pen so I can see the mark better. And I'm just going to very carefully mark it. And I'm going to take this off for now. So I'm going to repeat the same process. I am going to hole punch this here. Right, and perfect. So now I have my snap on the outside. I can go like this. I can see that it's there. It's not going to interfere with anything. Now I can snap my flap on, and it is lined up with the top. So now I'm going to clip that there, and I'm just going to take it to the machine and baste it in place across the top there. Okay, so I have just base stitched this flap on. My snap works fine. If you you do not have to include the flap, you could have just left it off, but I definitely wanted to include it, so that's why I made it work with the cam snap. Okay, so now we are going to take this top piece here, and the little curved portion should be towards the top. It's a little bit hard to tell. And I'm going to put that right sides together with the other exterior piece and clip it. And I'm going to take this to the machine and sew it at the given stitch length, or the seam allowance at my regular stitch length. And I'm just going to be mindful because it is bulky right here. Okay, so while I'm still at my machine, I have just stitched along the top here. So now we are going to fold this open with our seam allowance pointing up, and we are going to top stitch across the top here. And if you notice, I have switched to a Teflon foot because I'm using vinyl. It's a little bit sticky. And so I am going to top stitch across. And I'm probably going to have to hand crank when I get to where the flap is because it does increase in thickness there. Okay, so now we're going to build our D-rings. So I am using the 4-fold method. And instead of putting the Decoville in the middle, I am going to put it now between that fold. And this is just a random scrap piece that I have. And I was trying to avoid using the double-sided tape. And I'm actually going to cut this in half because this strap is going to end up being 3/4 of an inch wide. It's a little too big. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of hold it there in place. So when I flip this over, it's now tucked in the center there. And I don't have to worry about double-sided tape or making my needle sticky or anything. So just another option for you. And I'm really taking my time to make sure that my edges are lined up. Okay, so now I'm going to take this to the machine and I'm going to top stitch along each straight edge of this D-ring piece. Okay, so now that we have top stitched our D-ring connector, we are going to cut them in half and put our D-rings on. And I'm just clipping the end. And I'm going to take this to the machine, and I'm actually going to sew one line of top stitching as close to the D-ring as possible across both, just to hold that D-ring in place and so it doesn't slide down the bag. Okay, so now I have my 2 D-ring connectors and my other exterior piece, and I have used the silver marking pen to mark my measurement that's given in the pattern. And now we're going to attach our D-rings, and I'm lining them up with the mark, and we want them to stick out a bit. So I am just lining this up to make sure that I have the correct amount, and I'm going to clip it. Now if you have a directional print, you want to pay attention because these are going to flip up. So you're going to see it from this back side if you're looking. So I'm not worried about this because that is going to be hidden by another piece of vinyl. But when you flip it up, I want to make sure that my writing is going the correct direction. So you just want to be mindful if you have a directional fabric. Okay, so now I'm going to take this to the machine and I am going to baste it in place. Again, this is very thick, so I want to make sure that I am going slow and taking my time. Okay, I have just basted my D-ring holders into place. Now I am taking my external piece B, putting it right sides together and lining it up with the edge. And I'm going to take this to the machine and sew it at the given seam allowance in the pattern. But I'm going to definitely take my time because I don't want missed stitches or skip stitches, because there's definitely a big height difference where those D-rings are. So make sure you are mindful of that. Okay, so I have just attached the piece at the given seam allowance. So this time we are going to fold it open and our seam allowance is going down. And we are going to top stitch along the bottom panel. And if you look closely, I do have a skip stitch here. So I'm going to show you how I'm going to fix that without having to unpick it. And that's definitely because I was coming from such a height difference. So I have threaded a needle with the same color thread. And I am actually going to come up from the back side, right in the center of that skipped stitch. And I'm using the trimmed thread, so I didn't cut it too long, so I just want to make sure I'm not pulling my thread all the way through. And so now on the front side, I am going to make sure that I catch that thread, that string that is skipped, and come over it and back through the same exact hole that I just made from the back. Okay, and then on the back side, I am going to tie a knot. And you want to tug it as tight as possible, because it's going to pull that thread down and make it look like a stitch. So if we look from the front where I had that skip stitch, it's still slightly longer than the others, but blends in much better now. And that's what you can do if you have a skip stitch somewhere, and especially if it's in like a vinyl or something that's going to leave markings and you don't want to have to unpick all your hard work. Okay, so we have top stitch, and I want to add rivets to my D-ring connectors. So I have marked with a silver marking pen, and I'm going to hand punch it with the hole punch. That was super thick, so definitely took some strength. And I'm going to show you how to do one side and then I'll do the other side. So I have this rivet kit that I just got off of Amazon. So I'm going to find the size that works, and this one, the middle side is perfect because it just comes through. I don't need to add anything to put any extra layers. And then I'm going to put the cap on the other side. And I have the hand tools here, so you can use a hammer, or I have an arbor press that I'm going to show you how I use. Okay, you can see I actually have a cam snap press that I got for Christmas, but I have not ordered the dies yet. So what I'm going to do with my arbor press is I am going to take my hand tool, put it underneath, and line it up so the rivet's sitting in here. Set it on the plate of the arbor press. I'm going to take my hand tool, put that on top. And I'm going to make sure everything is lined up. And then carefully bring this down. And you'll feel it pop into place. Right, and it does have a little circle right now, but that will come out over time. And that one's set. So now I'm going to set the left one. All right, so I have put my rivets in. They look great. Another option is if you don't have a rivet press or you don't feel comfortable doing it by hand, you could also use Chicago screws. And those just use a regular screwdriver to screw in. And I believe I have this and the rivet kit that I use linked in my Amazon if that's something that you are interested in trying. Okay, so now I have my two pockets. I'm choosing to do both a credit card and a slip pocket. So we are going to put them both right sides together, lining up the short raw edge. And we are going to take them to the machine and stitch along both short edges. We're going to leave the top open because we are going to turn it right side out through that top part. So I'm going to take it to the machine and sew along the edges here at the given seam allowance. Okay, so I have both pockets and I'm going to turn them right side out. Okay, so now that I have both turned right side out, I have directional fabric, so I don't mind if my inside my pocket is upside down. No one's going to see that. So I'm making sure that I have the correct side facing up, and I have my pocket trims here. And I have marked my centers. I've drew a line down. And for this, I am going to have to use double-sided tape. So I'm putting some double-sided tape right down the center of both, because we are going to be sticking this to the top of these pockets. All right, so let me peel one here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm lining it up backwards basically, so I can really see this edge. And this is why I call it water resistant, even though my supplier calls it waterproof. It can fray, so I wouldn't want anybody to leave these edges raw. So I'm just going to run that over real quick. I'm afraid those fuzzies will come out. Okay, and I'm going to line it up on the line and then fold that edge over. And I even though I don't like using double-sided tape, I like using it for this part because otherwise these pocket trims love to slip and move around, and I always make them uneven. Okay, so now I'm going to take this to the machine. I'm going to do the other side or the other pocket first, the same exact way. And then I'm going to bring it to the machine and top stitch straight across this bottom edge here. Okay, so we have both of them with our trim, and I like that it was a little bit too long and we can cut them to size because it helped my machine feed it through really nice. Okay, so I am just cutting them down, and then behind me you can see that I have the linings, and I have marked the center. So in the pattern she gives you a measurement. I'm going to put mine a little bit longer, like a little bit further down than what was given, and we are going to attach one of these pockets on, oops, sorry, that was super loud. One of these pockets on each side of the linings, and we are going to stitch all the way around. And then for the credit card one, we are going to stitch right down the center as well. Okay, so I'm at the machine and I just wanted to show you, because I was like, how am I going to hold this onto the lining? These hairpins from Mormino worked perfect. That way I don't have to put real pins in and the holes will be visible. So I am going to make sure, actually I'm glad I'm talking because look, I've put the wrong side. So I'm going to flip this around, remeasure it. But while I'm here, I'm going to stitch this one all the way around the edge, all three sides, and then I'm going to do the same for this one here after I measure it and my center divider line. Okay, so I just finished sewing along all three sides of the pockets. You could put a rivet up here as well if you'd like to hold it. And this is the card slot, and I don't know if I must have taken too large of a seam allowance, because if I put my line up in the cards, I tested it with my cards and they fit exactly side to side. I'm afraid if I stitch it, they won't fit at all. So I'm just going to leave this as another like mini slip pocket. I don't really use card slots anyways. I always carry my wallet. So I'm going to leave them like that. Okay, so before we start our zipper construction, I have this little tag here, and it's not fold over. And I want to add it because this is a travel themed bag, and whenever I travel, I think we can all use some good luck. So I'm going to try to put this double-sided tape on the back to see if it will hold it in place. I don't know if that's going to give me trouble trying to get the backing off. And I'm just going to center it, eyeball it. And I'm going to take it to my machine and just stitch all the way around. I'll probably hand crank it and then tie the threads off in the back. Okay, so I just finished top stitching around this, and instead of back stitching, I pulled the threads to the back and tied it. So that way it leaves a nice clean finish on the front. If you have trouble pulling your threads to the back, you could take a needle from the front side and thread them through. So now we're going to start with our zipper. So I'm going to set this aside for now. Okay, so first things first, we have our zipper cut to the correct length, and I switched the teal one out. Felt like the teal was too close to my vinyl, so I switched it, and I think the teeth match this one nicely. So we're going to pull apart our zipper. I burnt the edge. You can see that it's like stuck together. There we go. And we are going to fold it down so the edge lines up, and then fold it back on itself. And I'm going to clip it in place, and I'm going to do the same thing for this side. So fold it down so the edges match up, and then fold it back on itself. And before I clip it, I just check to make sure that that looks even, and they do. So now I'm going to take this to machine and just stitch the edges here to hold this. And how I do that is I align my underneath my presser foot like this, and then I put the needle down, like hand cranking it, so it catches that back and doesn't move. Because if you don't catch this back side, it will unfold on you. So I'm going to go to the machine and tack them in place. Okay, so normally I would put the zipper pull on now, but the construction of this, we are going to be opening this up, so I'm leaving it off. So now on both the front and the back exteriors, I have put a mark with silver marking pen at the given measurement. So we are going to start with our front, and we are going to line up our teeth with that mark that we put. And we want our teeth down, facing the right side of the exterior. Okay, and I am going to clip this all the way across. And I am going to base this into place. In the instructions, she has you put this with double-sided tape, but I'm going to avoid that on my machine. So when I do my zippers, it takes a little bit longer, but I prefer to base them and then stitch with my lining. So I'm going to base this into place. And one thing I forgot to say before I base it, I am going all the way to the end here. I'm not leaving any gap. Okay, so I forgot to hit record for the time lapse, but you can see that I've just basted in place all the way to the end. So now we are going to take our lining and line it up with the top, and we are going to use a zipper foot, and we're going to stitch all the way across from left to right at the given seam allowance in the pattern. Okay, so while I'm still at the machine, I have just stitched and added my zipper. So the next step is something different that I've never done before in any pattern. So we are going to open this up. We want our seam allowance facing up towards our lining side. And now we are going to top stitch straight across here, making sure that we're catching our seam allowance. And we're only sewing through the lining. We're not sewing through the exterior. Okay, so you can see I have top stitched through the lining. Now we are going to repeat the same exact process that we just did, except we are doing it with our exterior back side. And we'll just have to be a little mindful because we have our D-rings here that we're going to have to maneuver out of the way. And this time we are lining the teeth up on the right hand side. Just top stitched along our seam on the bottom. So now we are going to fold our bag again so it is right sides together, both the lining and the lining this side of the exterior. And we are going to clip along the side that our zipper is not hanging out on. So I'm lining up my seams very carefully here. I'm going to start with that and then clip along the rest of the bag. So I'm going to just sew straight across, and our zipper teeth will not be in our stitch line as long as you place them according to the pattern. Okay, so we have just finished sewing our seam here. So now we are going to turn this so our lining is against the exterior, so wrong sides are together. And it's going to be a little bit awkward because of this being sewed at the bottom. And I'm going to stick my hand up in here and butterfly this seam open. This is the seam that we just sewed. And by opening it like this, we are creating less bulk, because we are going to have to top stitch through this. And that's right here. So I'm going to put a clip there. And then there's two marks given in the pattern on the left hand side and the right hand side. I have marked them with chalk on my zipper. And that is where our top stitching is going to begin and end. So now I'm taking this to the machine and I'm going to top stitch from this left hand side all the way across through the center, stopping at the mark on the right hand side. Okay, so we have top stitched across. It turned out very nice. So now we need to put on our zipper pull. And I'm going to turn this just so that way it lines up easier for me. So now that I have my ends, I'm going to start in my right hand. Start on the right hand side, then the left. Oh, I didn't go down far enough. And you definitely want to take your time because we've already stitched the zipper in, so you want to make sure that this is going to line up and be even. And it can be a little tricky because of how the bag is pulling. So I'm going to zip it. All right, perfect. It matches up nicely. So I know that that is good. So now we are going to turn our bag so it's back to right sides together. So I have my zipper open a little bit more than halfway. So we want our exteriors right side together and our linings right side together. So it should look just like this. Okay, so now that I have my bag laying like this, I've opened up my zipper a little bit, and I am going to put my zipper tape wrong sides together. So I'm going to make sure I am folding that how it needs to be and clipping it. So the teeth should be stacked on top of each other. And put 2 clips. And now I'm going to take my time. I'm going to line up both sides on my exterior. This one nests really nicely the seams. So make sure I clip that really good because I want that lined up. And then I'm going to repeat the same thing for the lining. Maybe a little bit tricky to see with the clips here on the zipper tape. But just clip as close as you can, as best as you can. And then line up the rest. So we are not going to sew all the way across like what we did on this side. We're going to start at the lining and sew all the way up onto the zipper tape, but we are not going to sew over the teeth. We are going to backstitch once we get to the zipper tape. And then we're going to do the same thing for the exterior side. We're going to start at the bottom, sew up to the top, back stitching right when we get to the teeth. We're not sewing over those teeth. Okay, so now I have my seam going across here. And our last step to seal up the edges is we need to sew along the bottom, but this is where we're going to turn the bag. And I like to be able to stick my hand in to be able to reach. So we are only sewing a very little bit. So starting and stopping, I put my clips at where I think is a good point. So we're only going to sew right here, leaving this open so we can turn through there. All right, so we just sewed along the bottom, leaving a turning hole. And now before we turn the bag, we need to box the corners. So I'm going to stick my hand in all the way down towards the bottom of the bag. And that just went so nicely. So for this, I'm going to butterfly the seams open since our bottom is butterflied. And repeat that for the other side. And then we're going to do the same thing for our lining. And for these, we don't have our seams already butterflied. So you could butterfly them if you want or nest them. So nesting means turn one side, your seam allowance one way, and then the other the opposite. So I'm going to do that. And then repeat for the other side. If you are nesting them though, see how this seam is going left? I want to make sure that my bottom seam is going the same direction. If not, it will make turning that a little bit awkward when we have to close it. So you can see mine are both facing the left. So now I'm going to take this to the machine and stitch all 4 box corners at once at the given seam allowance. See, that took a little while to turn, and I tucked my lining in even though we're not quite finished yet because I want to make sure that everything looks good, and I think this looks great. And you can see the inside, but we need to seal up our bottom, so I'm going to pull the lining back out, and now is your chance to if you want to stick your hand in and really open up the seams on the inside. Mine seems fine. So now we're going to close up our turning hole, and it should just kind of nicely poke out the corners. And that's the other thing, make sure you poke out your corners really well, because once we close this you won't be able to. It'll be more difficult. So now that these corners are poked, you can see that this wants to kind of nicely already come together because we have already sewed a tiny bit. So you could close this up by hand, but I personally hate hand stitching. Terrible at it. And this is so far down in the bag that I am just going to clip it and seal it closed with like an 1/8 inch top stitch right across the end here. Okay, so now that I have my bottom sealed up, I'm going to tuck this back inside again. We just need to make our crossbody strap. Alright, so I like my crossbody straps at 60 inches. I know some people say that you can go smaller. I'm short, I'm only 5'2", but I still prefer to have that extra distance, especially because I have a little bit of weight on me and I can always make it looser or tighter. So my piece here was only about 50 inches long. So I am going to add this length to it. I'm going to show you how I do that. So I have my longest piece here, and I am going to lay this right sides together down so it makes like a T, or I guess upside down L. And I'm going to clip the edges. And then I am going to draw a line from one corner, from this top left corner to this bottom right. And I'm just using a regular pen. So now I'm going to take that to the machine and just stitch regularly across this diagonal, because once that's sewn, we're able to fold this open. And now our strap is extended. So I'm going to bring that to the machine now. Okay, so now that I have sewed across this line, I am going to trim it down. And I'm leaving a little bit in the seam allowance. That way, when this is folded open, I can butterfly this open. And if you are using like a cotton or anything that you can press, I would press this open. So now I'm going to make my strap by doing the 4-fold method. So I'm going to do most of this off camera because it's so long, but it's similar, or the exact way that we just did the D-rings. So we're going to fold it to the middle, get our center crease, or you can draw your center crease in. And then you're going to fold each side into the center and then onto itself. So I'm going to do the rest of that off camera and I'll come back before I stitch it. Okay, so I have this all clipped and folded. The other thing that I did is on the edges, I folded the end in. So that way I do not have a raw edge showing right here. So that's something that you could do as well, or just leave it raw and tuck it under, or use a strap end. I just wanted to point that out in case that works for you. So now I'm going to bring this to the machine and I'm going to top stitch the side where the clips are first, because that's where the fold is. So I'm going to top stitch, go all the way around. I'm going to go to the end, back stitch, and then start the other side. So now we're going to add our slider. So we are going to come from one side up and over the center bar, bring it down, and then because I folded it in and I don't have a raw edge, I'm not going to fold it back on itself because that kind of gets really thick for my machine. So I am just going to tack it down like this. I have it folded underneath, and I'm going to put 2 lines of parallel stitching here. Okay, so I have just secured this for my slider. So now I am putting one of my snap hooks on, and we want to make sure that our strap is not twisted. And once you check that, you're going to go up on the right, over the center bar, and then down on the left. If you are using vinyl or like thicker materials, they do make some wide mouth sliders. Alright, so now that I have this slider on and my other snap hook is here, and then you want to just check to make sure that you can slide it. First it was a little bit stiff, but I think part of it is the material. So now on this last side, we are going to put our snap hook on and then fold it under and get to the machine and stitch 2 lines of stitching here as well. Okay, so that completes our strap, and our last step is to attach it to our bag. And I really love how this turned out. So cute with the flap. Even though I didn't make it in the silver like I intended, I think the purple matches the purple here. The pocket is so cute. And this is the first time I've ever did a zipper like this. So such a unique construction, and I'm happy that I could learn a new technique. Alright everyone, thank you for tuning in and watching my video. Again, thank you for Jill for allowing us to use your pattern. It turned out absolutely adorable. I'm so excited. There's a whole bunch of us sewing this up today, so please make sure you check out my description. Check out the other talented sewists who are participating in the Marathon Sewciety Sew Along today. So thanks again. If you liked the video, please subscribe or give it a like, and I'll see you next time. Bye!